You wake up, roll over, and like you do every morning, you check your phone. Your brokerage app loads. Spinning wheel, error. You try again. This time it opens. But something's off. No charts, no green, no red, just a gray bar at the top and a line of small cold text. Due to extraordinary market conditions, certain account features are temporarily unavailable. You swipe to your positions, your life savings, the portfolio you built for years, the stocks, the ETFs, the long-term holdings you were told to never worry about. But instead of feeling proud, your stomach drops. Because in that moment, you realize something terrifying. Those assets were never really yours. Before we go any further, let's be crystal clear. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not financial advice, not legal advice, and you should always do your own research and talk to qualified professionals before making any decisions. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the lie you've been sold. The lie that your stocks, your funds, your investments belong to you. They don't. And the people who built this system? They're not confused. They're not incompetent. They like it this way. You think you own shares. You think your name is on something real. But what if I told you that, deep in the plumbing of the financial system, the real owners are not you, but them, the brokers, the banks, the clearinghouses, the faceless entities you've never heard of, but who legally outrank you on your own assets. This is the story of how you were turned into a tenant in a financial house you thought you bought, and how, in the moment of crisis, you are last in line, by design. Let's start with the fairy tale. You open an account with a brokerage. You deposit your money. You tap buy on 10 shares of a company. The app congratulates you. It literally says, you own 10 shares of XYZ. You show your friends, look, I own this stock. You feel smart, responsible, like an investor. That's the illusion. Here's the reality. What's actually happening is that your broker is the one holding legal title to those shares, not you. You are what's called a beneficial owner. You benefit from the economic performance, but you are not the registered owner on the deepest level of the system. Imagine this. You buy a house. You move in. You pay the mortgage. You mow the lawn. But when you check the deed at the county office, it doesn't show your name. It shows the name of some custodian company you've never met. If that happened with a house, you'd lose your mind. You'd call a lawyer. But that's exactly how your stocks work, and almost nobody tells you. Why? To understand how this scam operates, you need to see the plumbing. And yes, they intentionally made it boring and complicated so you'd never look. Here's the basic idea. When you own stocks in a brokerage account, they are typically held in street name. That means the broker or its nominee is the owner of record. Your name is just somewhere in the broker's internal system as the beneficial owner. Above the brokers, there are giant entities, central depositories and clearinghouses that hold massive pools of shares. Think of it like this. At the top, there's a big warehouse full of generic boxes labeled with company names. Your broker has a claim to a certain number of boxes in that warehouse. You have a claim against your broker, not against the warehouse itself. You don't have a specific box with your name on it. You have a promise from your broker that, as far as their internal ledger is concerned, you're entitled to X number of shares. The system works on omnibus accounts, giant pooled accounts where everybody's shares are mixed together. Your name isn't on the shares. Your name is on your broker's database, and databases can be frozen. They can be altered. They can be subordinated in bankruptcy. This isn't sci-fi. This is how it's built. Now let's talk about the part they really hope you never read, your customer agreement. When you open that shiny app, did you read the 30-page legal document full of dense sentences and legal jargon? Of course you didn't. You scrolled to the bottom and hit, I agree, because that's what everyone does. Buried in there are gems like, the broker can lend out your shares. The broker can pledge your assets as collateral. In certain account types, the broker can use your securities for its own purposes. That's called rehypothecation. It's a fancy word for using the same collateral more than once, or letting your assets be tied into obligations that have nothing to do with you. You think your shares are sitting there in a box with your name on it. In reality, your ownership may be layered under the broker's balance sheet, the broker's counterparties, the clearinghouse's rules, margin agreements, and whatever other conditional obligations they stack on top of your so-called assets. And the legal system? It's already pre-written to decide what happens if this tower of IOUs ever collapses. Guess where you are on that list? Not first. Not second, not third. We've already had glimpses of what happens when the music stops. Brokerages fail, banks collapse. Trading houses blow up because they gambled with leverage and lost. And when the dust settles, who gets taken care of first? Not you. The system has a pecking order. Secured creditors, derivatives counterparties, big institutions with lawyers and negotiated agreements, and somewhere way down that ladder, after everyone else has taken their cut. The little guy gets whatever's left, if anything. We've seen stories where customers discovered that assets they thought were segregated were, in practice, entangled in the firm's own risks and obligations. While clients panic, wondering if they'll ever see their money again. Executives walk away with bonuses. Lawyers bill by the hour, no matter the outcome. Regulators hold hearings and pretend to be shocked. Again. The story is always the same. We didn't foresee this. This was a one-off failure. The system is fundamentally sound. But if you watch the pattern, it's not one-off. It's a template, because you are not at the center of this system. You are the fuel that keeps it running. Let's drop the polite language for a second. You are living in a version of financial feudalism. In medieval times, peasants worked the land, but the land was owned by the lord. The peasants could be evicted, taxed, controlled, because they were always one step removed from true ownership. Today, you invest in assets, but the titles, the records, the control, those live at levels above you. The castles are just made of glass and steel now. This isn't an accident. By holding securities in pooled, centralized, street name systems, control is consolidated at the top. Systemic risks are socialized onto the public. Profits and priority access are privatized at the institutional level. And what about you? You get a mobile app with confetti animations and a slick interface designed to make you feel like a player in markets that don't even recognize you as a real owner. At any point, a rule can change. A trade can be restricted. A withdrawal can be delayed. A temporary measure can become your new reality. All for your protection, of course. You see, the system is not built around your rights. It's built around their claims. When push comes to shove, the law asks, who has the strongest legal claim? And that's almost never you. How do they keep billions of people calm inside a rigged game? Simple. They sedate you with financial entertainment instead of financial education, endless jargon feel-good slogans like invest for the long term and time in the market beats timing the market. They don't want you asking, who actually holds title to my shares? What happens if my broker fails? Am I just an unsecured creditor in disguise? Instead, they give you TV shows with stock-picking clowns, influencers shilling, buy the dip, set it and forget it. Narratives that treat curiosity like paranoia. Anytime you question the system, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist, a doomer, a nut job who doesn't trust the experts. But let's be real. Is it conspiracy to read the actual legal agreements you signed? Is it crazy to ask who legally owns the assets you think you paid for? Or is it crazy to not ask those questions? Now this is the part where some channels would tell you, sell everything. Buy only this one magical thing. Follow my secret strategy. We're not doing that. This is not financial advice. You have your own life, your own risk tolerance, your own responsibilities. What we can do is talk about some general directions people explore when they wake up to this reality. Some people choose to actually read their brokerage and bank agreements, understand the difference between legal owner and beneficial owner, spread assets across multiple institutions instead of trusting one gatekeeper. Others start learning about how direct registration works in some markets, the difference between holding something directly versus through a chain of intermediaries, what kinds of assets exist outside the digital banking system altogether, and many simply decide to question everything. Stop outsourcing their understanding of money to smiling salespeople and influencers. Spend time reading boring, dry documents, because buried in the boredom is the truth. The real power doesn't come from any specific asset. It comes from understanding the game. Because once you see the game, you become much harder to exploit. So let's go back to that morning. The error message, the frozen interface. The sudden realization that the system you trusted can lock you out in an instant. Most people in that moment will panic and then comply. They'll accept whatever narrative they're given. Technical issues, temporary stress in the system. No need to worry, your assets are safe. And maybe this time they are. But the real question is not, is everything okay today? The real question is, who actually holds power over what I think I own? Because if someone else can freeze it, can lend it, can pledge it, can reorder who gets paid when things goes wrong, then what you have is not ownership, it's permission. You have been taught to worship a system that keeps you at the bottom of the ladder, while telling you you're on top of the world because you downloaded an app and bought some shares. You were never meant to ask, who's above my broker? What happens in bankruptcy? Where am I on the claim list? You were meant to tap, swipe, deposit, and stay quiet. But you're watching this, which means you're not quiet. You feel that anger in your chest. that burning sense that something is deeply wrong. Good. You should be angry. This is not about fear. This is about clarity. Once you understand that your name is not on the foundational ledger, that your ownership is mediated through layers of intermediaries, that the legal system has already decided who gets rescued first, you can stop being a sleeping participant and start becoming a conscious player. Will that fix everything overnight? No. Will it stop the next crisis? No. But it will change you. And once enough people understand the structure of their own captivity, the system has a problem. Informed people are harder to herd. So here's what you do next. Not blindly panic, not blindly obey. You talk. You share this information. You ask your broker hard questions. You look at your agreements. You discuss this with friends and family who also think they own assets. You break the taboo of asking who really owns what. Because the cruelest part of this whole design is not just that they built a system where you own almost nothing. It's that they convinced you to be proud of it. You were told you're in the markets, you're building wealth, you're planning for retirement. But no one mentioned that your role is closer to unsecured funder of a machine you don't control. You don't have to accept that. You might not be able to tear down the whole structure tomorrow. But you absolutely can refuse to stay blind inside it. Start with one question, then another, then another. Because the day you stop confusing permission with ownership is the day this entire illusion starts to crack. If this woke something up in you, don't just click away and forget. Share this. Talk about it. Challenge the story you were given. You may not own what you think you own, but you still own something they can't register, rehypothecate, or seize. Your attention, your mind, your refusal to play dumb. Use it.